Hello everyone, my name is Callie and this is actually my first video on my YouTube channel, so I thought I'd start off with all the books I read in May, just because my channel is going to be based around books and reading, but also fitness, mainly running because I'm currently training for a half marathon. So I plan on uploading weekly half marathon training vlogs because that's in September, so I've already started training because I have no idea what I am doing. But for my first video I thought I'd do all the books I read in May, just to give recommendations, what I rated them, of course on Goodreads, and also the curtains are open and the windows are open, so I should probably go shut them because that noise is probably going to get on everybody's nerves. I shut them and that noise sounds a lot better, so hopefully no noise is going to annoy anyone. But my dog is sat here, so if any movement is made that is just from her, so yeah, just putting that out there. So in May I actually read 7 books, which is pretty good for me, as on Goodreads my yearly goal thing is 50 books and I think I'm on 24 right now, and I'm filming this on the 31st of May, so I'd say I'm doing pretty good. I'm ahead of schedule. So the first book I read in May was Legendborn by Tracy Dion, and I really loved it. I went into Waterstones with no idea of actually what I wanted to pick up, and I came out with this because I just thought the cover was absolutely beautiful, and I'd seen people talking about it all over Book Talk and Bookstagram and stuff, so I just had to pick it up. And if you don't know what Legendborn's about, it says, after her mother dies in an accident, 16-year-old Brie Matthews wants to escape. A residential programme for bright high schoolers seems like the perfect opportunity until she witnesses a magical attack her very first night on campus. So it's essentially all about magic, and to be honest, this was the first book I read of the month and I loved it, but most of the plot details just out my brain, and I should have wrote a review for it, but I didn't, which was stupid. But to be fair, then I was kind of debating making a YouTube channel, but now I know for the future that reviews are really going to help me out when I'm filming these videos. But I gave this 4 stars on Goodreads. I really enjoyed it. To be fair, Brie's love interest, I think it's called Nick. I'm not too keen on that pair, I don't know, he just seems a bit full of himself, but I feel like everyone on Book Talk or BookTube or anything always goes for the darker characters, so I can definitely see Brie and Selwyn having a third relationship in future books, and to be honest, I'm here for it. I loved Selwyn, I thought he was a great character, I just loved all his arcs, and yeah, I can't wait to see what happens in the next book. But I'm not sure when that's gonna be coming out, just because I think this one only came out in 2020, or maybe even the start of 2021, I'm not sure. But yeah, as soon as that comes out I'll definitely be having that, and I rated that 4 stars on Goodreads. And then the next book I read, again I got this from Waterstones. I didn't know I was going to buy it, but it was a buy one get one half price, and you don't turn that kind of offer down, especially from Waterstones. Walking around Waterstones is just an elite experience, to be honest. So the next book I got the same time I picked up Legendborn was Cinderella is Dead by Kaylin, and again the cover absolutely stunning. I really hope this is focusing, by the way. Yeah, I just honestly, the covers, I get so sold by covers, and I know I maybe shouldn't do that, maybe I should actually read the blurb of books. I gave this book 3 stars on Goodreads, and it's not that it wasn't bad. I really liked all the themes in it because it had the LGBTQ plus representation in it, which we know we're all here for. We all need more of that representation in books. And also, again, people of colour. I've been trying to pick up more books with people of colour in, just so I have more representation in my books and it's just not all whitewashed, because we don't need that in our lives. And then again, I didn't think it was good, and I just love the whole concept of women coming and just fighting for their rights, and I thought the whole general idea of it was good, but I just didn't think it was for me. And even though some things that happened in it were quite dark, it did still come across at points like a child story. And I know it's a child story because it's Cinderella, but personally I prefer something a bit more I don't know, something with a bit more suspense, because throughout this story it was very much you knew everything that was going to happen and they followed through with it. But that's why I love reading crimes and thrillers and stuff, just because I like the slow release of, oh hello Nova, this is Nova by the way. I just really like the slow release of details in the book, so not really having a clue what's going on, and that book doesn't really do this. But if you're into books like this, I do recommend, and the blurb says It's 200 years since Cinderella found her prince, but the fairy tale is over. Sophia knows the story though off by heart because every girl has to recite it daily, from when she's tiny until the night she's sent to the royal ball for choosing. And every girl knows that she has only one chance. For the lives of those not chosen by a man at the ball are forfeit. So yeah. Oh, Noah, what are you doing? Hello. She clearly wants to be part of this video, but if she's not making a noise, then it's fine. And then, from this point onwards, I kind of went back to my crime thriller thing. Don't get me wrong, I love reading fantasies, I love reading stuff like that, but I hadn't read like a crime or a thriller book in ages, so for the rest of the month I just kind of went down that route. So, the next book I read, was The Guest List by Lucy Foley, I think that's how you say her last name. And I actually gave this 5 stars on Goodreads, and I don't give out 5 stars a lot. Hello. I don't give out 5 stars a lot just because a book needs a lot to get 5 stars from me. But as I said, I love crimes and... We'll give her a second. Right? It's alright. Hello. Hello. So I gave this 5 stars on Goodreads because I really loved, like, they were so good at dropping information at the right times, and that's exactly what I think a crime thriller needs. Like, if they give too much information away at the start, then it's always predictable throughout the rest of the story, and that's not something you want when reading a crime or a thriller book. And the ending I did not see coming at all. It was so unexpected, and that's just why I love this book so much. And I'm not going to say too much about it purely because I don't want to give it away. And I highly recommend this book if you're into crime, thrillers, that kind of thing. And the blurb just says, each has a secret, each has a motive. Off the windswept Irish coast, guests gather for the wedding of the year, old friends, past grudges, happy families, hidden jealousies, 13 guests, one body, one guest won't leave this wedding alive. I've never been to a wedding, but this seemed very dramatic for a wedding, so... Can you sit down? No, she clearly wants to be a main feature in this. Then the next book I read this month was The Family Upstairs, and this is by Lisa Jewell. And I gave this 4 stars on Goodreads purely because I did find it quite slow at the start. I wasn't really like eager to be picking it up. I kind of struggled to get through the first few chapters, and personally I like when I'm hooked from the start and I'm like, I need to read this book, I need to know what's happened. But that didn't really happen at the start, but from around middle or 3/4 of the way until the end I was hooked. I had to know what happened, and it was definitely worth it for the ending. So the blurb says, be careful who you let in. At a large house in London's fashionable Chelsea, a baby is awake in her cot. Well fed and cared for, she is happily waiting for someone to pick her up. In the kitchen lie 3 decomposing corpses. Close to them is a hastily scrawled note. They've been dead for several days. Who has been looking after the baby? And where did they go? Essentially, honestly, it's set in different point of views of different characters, and it's also different times, but it's really easy to follow because there's not too many characters that you have to go after. As I know sometimes in some books there's so many characters and so many point of views that just never have a clue what's going on. Thankfully that wasn't the case for this book, and the ending for me was actually the favourite bit, which is pretty rare to happen because sometimes I find books fall flat at the ending when the whole book's actually been pretty strong. But the plot twist came at the end and I did not see it coming at all. So if the whole book was as good as the ending, then I probably, again, it would have been given a 5 stars, but just because of how slow I found it at the start, it's pretty long. I don't think it needs all the information it gave, to be honest. So yeah, that's why I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. Then the next book I read this month was The Dinner Guest. I actually read that on the Kindle and I don't have that with me currently, so here's a picture of the Dinner Guest cover. And I'm actually part of Beth's book club, and if you don't know what that is, I highly recommend it. Go check out her Instagram account, it's amazing community. So I read that, that was a maze read, and again, I found that one quite slow to start with. It took me a good few chapters to get into it just because, again, it was really slow, and to be honest I don't really like the whole drawn out thing. I like when we're straight in with the action, just hit me with the action. So I don't have the blurb on me right now, which is pretty rubbish of me, but again, it's essentially, there's a dinner party, there is Matthew and Charlie, they're a gay couple, they have an adopted child called Titus, and essentially Matthew gets killed and this woman called Rachel says that she's the one that killed him, which, as we find out, actually is not the case. Essentially it's the whole build up to it, but it's not in chronological order, but weirdly I think that worked well for the story. If it was in chronological order, there wouldn't be much point for the story after the dinner party. So again, I think they did it really well that way, and the ending I did not see coming at all. I loved the plot twist at the end, and I don't know if it's going to be a second book to this or if it was genuinely meant to be left on a cliffhanger, but if there is, I would definitely pick it up and read it, and I gave this book 4 stars on Goodreads. And then the next book I read this month was Stags, which I think, from what I remember, stands for St. Aidan the Great School, I believe. This wasn't what I expected it to be at all, but at the same time it didn't mean it was bad. To be honest, I thought this was going to be more for like an older audience, but it felt quite, I don't know. The concepts were something that would be more understood by adults, but just the whole it was written was more like childlike, and then maybe that was because of the characters that it came across that way, but I don't know. I still enjoyed it nevertheless, and the blurb says, I turned the card over, RSVP 2, there's no name on it. There are some invitations you just shouldn't accept. Green McDonald doesn't know that yet. So essentially the whole thing is just about a cult, which I didn't see coming. I thought it was going to be like a crime thriller, which, looking at it now, maybe I shouldn't have assumed that about it. To be honest, I really enjoyed it. I probably won't go back and read it again, although I did give it 4 stars on Goodreads. I think that's because the main trio of the likeable characters I really liked. I really liked how they come from different backgrounds and they came together. It was just like a bond, and it was just like this iconic trio. So honestly, I think that whole character relationship was just my whole favourite thing about the book. I think that's maybe why I rated it so high. But the plot actually was really very well thought out, which I didn't expect. Also, this is by Emma Bennett. But yeah, I'd recommend it if you're into it, but don't expect like a classic crime thriller thing, because it's not. But maybe if I actually googled it and researched rather than just picking it up off the work shelf, then I would have known that. So that's probably just me assuming things falsely. And then the last book I read in May was Sister Dear by Hannah Mary McKinnon, and I also don't have this book with me, even though I do have the physical copy, because my mum has nicked it because she wants to read it, and to be honest, I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And I like this because it went into the action straight away, so there was always something to follow, there was always something happening, and the whole storyline honestly was really interesting. It's essentially about a sister whose dad has died, but she finds out it wasn't actually her dad, so she wants to try and get involved in her actual dad's life, and she finds out she has a half sister, but essentially they want nothing to do with her, so she kind of infiltrates her way into her half sister's life, as her half sister doesn't actually know who she is, and it's just all about their relationship building, but it just all takes a turn at the end that nobody sees coming. And honestly, I really recommend it if you're into crime thrillers. It's honestly a really great one that I've read, but I rated it 4 stars on Goodreads purely because the main character was meant to be like 30. I felt like I was reading the perspective of an 18-year-old or even like a 16-year-old. Like, the writing came across as quite childish for the age, and the actions, everything that was happening didn't like match up with it. So the whole way through I was reading and I was like, I feel like I'm reading a high school drama. But no, this is like serious life problems from a 30-year-old, but this just feels like high school drama, which is just something I was thinking through the whole book, so I couldn't give it a 5-star read when that whole thing was just confusing me so much. But overall, it was a good book. I just wish it actually felt more like a 30-year-old's perspective, which I'm sure makes sense. So those are all the books I read this month, and I'm hoping to read a similar amount next month, just because I finished university now. I have all the time I basically want to read books, and I'm so excited for it, although I have no more room in my room for books. You know, it's a lifestyle at this point. But I hope you enjoyed my first video. I really enjoyed filming it. Hopefully I'll become less awkward and more natural while filming, because I just really love talking about books, and I'm really excited to start uploading my running videos as well, so if you're into that, stay tuned, because I love Food Fitness Flora's channel. It's like one of my favourite running fitness channels ever. I just think she's so inspiring and amazing, and I'd love to be able to do some of the events and stuff that she does now when I'm older, because I'm 19. And yeah, I only started running about a year ago, and of course in lockdown when everything happened, So yeah, again, I really also hope you liked Nova partaking in the video. So yeah, thank you for watching. Like, comment and subscribe, and please watch my next video, and I hope you like it just as much.